Big players supplying cheap labor and products to the U.S., as well as enormous markets for American intellectual property and services. Already, China is the world's manufacturing center and receives more foreign direct investment than any other country. China has posted over 8% annual growth for the past 2 decades, which some call an economic miracle. India's economic growth, while not quite as spectacular as China's, has still surpassed almost all other nations. India face similar challenges as they continue down their distinct development paths. Unemployment, regional disparities, corruption, poverty, disease, and environmental decay will continue to be critical issues. Our Ambassador Linda Zhao-Yang, former U.S. Executive Director of the Asian Development Bank and current chair of the Asian Corporate Governance Association, and a member of the Committee of 100, a national Chinese-American association. And David Denoon, professor of politics at New York University and author of the upcoming book, Asia Transformed, the Economic and Strategic Rise of India and China. Welcome to Great Decisions to both of you.
States has been and continues to be the one and only superpower in the world, both economically and militarily. However, in China and Brazil, around the world, the power base has expanded. We have to adapt to a new situation whereby, with the expanded power base, we can no longer go it alone. We need to have allies.
Of course, China has a long-standing relationship with Pakistan. The Chinese are also...
Including a weapons relationship.
Absolutely. The principal weapons supplier to Pakistan. And the Chinese also have a very close relationship now with Burma, and they're trying to develop their relationship with Bangladesh. So I think that at one level, the sort of official level, you have a lot of formal cooperation.
Would you characterize China as an ally when it comes to North Korea?
Yes, definitely. And it is also in China's interest to emphasize the point you made, Dave. China's economy is much more open than Japan's, because one measure of openness of the economy is the total volume of export-import trade. In China last year, total trade amounted to 70% of GDP, 70%, whereby in Japan it's about 20 or 25%. So China is a very open economy and very much of a player, an active participant on global trade. The Chinese really learned from the Gorbachev experience. And they realized in order for them to earn the legitimacy of the regime and the party, they must demonstrate has the ability to lift a vast number of Chinese people out of poverty. And that they have succeeded.
Yes.
They have lifted 300 million of this 1.3 billion people out of poverty, if we define poverty as people living on $1 or $2 a day. So that they have succeeded.
I want to come back to that in just a second, but give us just a kind of a benchmark of poverty in both countries. What percentage of the population in China would you say you would characterize as living in poverty, and what percentage in India?
Well, I'm not familiar with exact figures, but I would say in China probably 15 to 20% would be in what we would call extreme poverty, and then maybe another 20% would be at the subsistence level. But in India, you've got 40% of the population that's still illiterate, and you've got another 10% that is still in very, very poor circumstances. Is that in India, you've certainly got 50% of the population that is in very, very meager circumstances.
And here's
about 14, 15 million people in Beijing, and there are 11 million cell phones in Beijing, counting every woman and an infant. Okay.
But 11 million cell phones
in use in Beijing. Okay. There is, you see, the one level. Yet on the other side, if you go to the interior provinces, you hardly ever see any telephone or anything. But every now and then, recently I was in Gansu province, one of the, as you know, the poorest. You can use a cell phone called Beijing. And you see television. People coming in and out of hotel lobby, television. They see what life is like along the coast.
The government made a conscious decision in the mid-'80s that it was going to develop the coastal areas for good reason. The infrastructure is better, the ports, the railroads, the airports, and the human capital was better. That's where the top universities were. This is the place where they could get the rapid growth started. And they made a conscious decision to emphasize that.
Do you think the Pakistan-India tensions over Kashmir are something that are finally going to get resolved as part of the development that's occurring in the region? Or is this a festering problem that's going to continue for a long time?
I think it's very unlikely that you will get a, quote, permanent solution. The reason is that it's unlikely that you could get a true plebiscite. Neither country is going to back off what's called the line of control. And they both have an interest in keeping the territory that they currently control. But there could definitely be a reduction in tension, and there has been certainly since 2002.